Getting turned around can sometimes be complicated, whether you are on the ground or in the air. But fortunately for IFR pilots, when you need to fly a course reversal for an IFR approach, the directions will be shown on the approach chart, making it easy to see what you need to do to get turned around. There are two reasons you might need to do a course reversal on an approach. The first is to get turned around for final approach when you start the approach from the opposite direction. The second reason is to give you the room you need to descend on some instrument approaches. So let's go over some different ways to fly course reversals. The most common form of course reversal is a procedure turn. Let's use this NDB approach to runway 30 at Caldwell, Idaho as an example. Regardless of which direction you are coming from, you will start this approach by flying directly to the NDB. This makes sure that you start the approach from a known position. When you get to the NDB, you'll fly outbound on the final approach course. If you are coming in from the west, you will already be lined up to fly outbound. But if you are coming in from the east, you will need to turn around when you get to the NDB. You can turn either left or right, but most pilots would turn the direction that is quickest to get turned around. By the way, this holding pattern at the NDB has nothing to do with this course reversal maneuver. It just shows you how you'll hold in the event of a missed approach. When you are established outbound from the NDB, you'll need to turn around to fly back to the airport on the final approach course. This arrow tells you that the method you'll use to turn around is what is known as a procedure turn. A procedure turn is any way of turning around in which you leave the course and make a turn back to re-intercept the course. In this case, they make it easy for you by recommending that you leave the course on a heading of 145 degrees. You'd fly on that heading for 1 minute and then make a left turn and come back to intercept the final approach course on a heading of 325 degrees. Now what you've done in this case is a 45-degree turn to the right, followed by a 180-degree turn to the left. You can choose any headings you want to leave and return to the course, as long as you make your turnaround on the side of the course that's shown by the arrow. Your protected airspace is only on that side of the course. If you look at the profile view, you see that on this approach, you have to remain within 10 miles of the fix you started from, the Meridian NDB, while you are turning around. In a 90-knot Skyhawk, that means you need to turn around within a little more than 6 minutes from the time you leave the NDB. You can use as much or as little of that 10 miles as you want. You just need to give yourself plenty of room to get established on the final approach course before you start your descent. Another important thing the profile view tells you is the minimum altitude you must maintain in the procedure turn until you are established back on the course inbound. In this case, you must maintain 5,400 feet in the procedure turn. Once you are established inbound on course to the NDB, you can start your descent to 3,900 feet. Now, even if a procedure turn is shown on the approach chart, there are two times you should not do it. The first is when you're being radar vectored. In that case, the controller uses radar to determine your position and to get you lined up on final. And the second is when you see the note, no PT, meaning no procedure turn required on the sector or feeder route you will be coming from, as here on the VOR DME or GPS 33 approach to Hutchinson, Minnesota. In this case, the controller is not expecting you to do a procedure turn and is basing his separation on that expectation. If you were to surprise the controller by making a procedure turn, you might compromise that separation. Okay, let's look at another way you can get turned around, and that is a holding pattern. Notice on this VOR DME Alpha approach to Belle Plaine Municipal Airport in Iowa, there is a holding pattern course reversal shown by the heavy dark oval here. There is a note inside the holding pattern that says to fly 1 minute legs. When you see a holding pattern course reversal, you have to fly it as it's shown, unless you're being radar vectored or you're coming from a route or sector labeled no procedure turn. Now, the reason that you have a holding pattern reversal is holding patterns take up less room than procedure turns. A normal procedure turn allows you to gobble up to 10 miles of real estate. But a holding pattern like this will probably keep you within 2 to 3 miles of the initial approach fix. One reason it is important to stay close to the fix is to avoid terrain or obstructions that might be lurking just a little farther away. You want to take one circuit around the holding pattern to get lined up on the approach. If you need additional circuits for whatever reason, you must get ATC's approval. Now, there is an arrival sector east of this VOR where you don't have to make the holding pattern course reversal. The note you see here says no PT, no procedure turn for arrivals to the Cedar Rapids VOR, starting at the 052 radial and continuing clockwise on around to the 156 radial. When you're inbound from anywhere in that sector, basically from the east, you're lined up well enough to shoot the approach without using the holding pattern to get lined up. Now, if you're approaching from the east, the controller would not expect you to fly the holding pattern. So if you need the holding pattern to descend to the approach altitude, you need to get ATC's approval ahead of time. If you arrive at Cedar Rapids from any other direction, you will have to fly the holding pattern course reversal. Yet another way to turn your airplane around is to fly a teardrop course reversal. Here is the ILS runway 12 approach into Santa Maria, California. When a teardrop course reversal is shown on an approach plate, it's mandatory. You've got to fly it as it is shown. Now, to fly this approach, you simply track outbound on the Guadalupe 320 radial, then turn left to join the localizer course inbound. Notice on the profile view, it tells you that you must stay within 10 nautical miles of the Guadalupe VOR during the course reversal. Now, to help ensure that you stay within the approach obstruction clearance area, procedure turns and holding patterns have speed limits. Procedure turns have a speed limit of 200 knots. If you're flying a holding pattern course reversal, then the holding pattern airspeed limits apply. Below 6,000 feet, it's 200 knots. From 6,000 up through 14,000 feet, it's 230 knots. And above 14,000 feet, it's 265 knots. A good tip is to slow down to your approach speed before you start a course reversal. This will help you be stabilized for the approach. So the next time you need to make a U-turn in a car, you can just remind yourself that if you were in an airplane, you'd have easy to follow directions printed out for you right on the chart.